All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John McReal, and I'm a member of the Wisconsin Association for College Admission Counseling. And I'll be just kind of in here helping our wonderful panel just on the tech side, so you won't hear too much from me. But I did want to welcome you to the first ever virtual college exploration event sponsored by the Wisconsin Association for College Admissions Counseling in partnership with StriveScan. Just to give you a quick rundown, there is going to be an opportunity to ask questions throughout the presentation today. There is a Q&A button that you can press, so you'll be able to type in those questions to at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you, but obviously you can see and hear our esteemed panel today. The recording of this will be available after the fact on the WACAC website, which you can see the web address right there, and it's just www.wacac.com. And we welcome you to visit that site as well in order to sign up for more sessions. This is actually just the first week. We have a whole nother week of sessions being offered next week. And with that, I will shut up and I will turn it on over to our wonderful panel to talk to you about demystifying the music admissions process.
Hi, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Kate Bittner. I'm the Director of Conservatory Admissions at Lawrence University. I'm originally from Wisconsin and I went to Lawrence, so I'm a class of 2012 grad. I really enjoyed my time at Lawrence and hope to pass on some of our music admissions knowledge onto you for those who hope to be music majors in college. So I'll have my fellow panelists introduce themselves. Molly, why don't you take it over? But we can't hear you, Molly.
Am I still muted? It says not. No, I'm having a computer delay with my mute button. We're going to try this here. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Bass-Ganza, and I'm the Associate Dean for Fine Arts Recruitment here at St. Olaf College, which is in Northfield, Minnesota, about 45 minutes south of Minneapolis, St. Paul. I also am a graduate of the college I represent. I graduated from St. Olaf in 2008 as a bassoon music major. And so I look forward to sharing some tips and tricks as we go through the music application process for you.
Okay, hello, my name is Jared Jellison, and I'm the undergraduate admissions coordinator for the Mead Witter School of Music at UW-Madison. I'm also a longtime Wisconsinite. I've lived in Wisconsin most of my life, and I actually did not graduate from UW-Madison. I graduated from UW-Milwaukee, but still in the UW system. I'm very happy to be here.
All right, we have a presentation ready for you today, so let me just share my screen with you. There we go. All right. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about what the music admissions process looks like, as it is different than if you were just applying for a non-music major at college, and hopefully give you some good tips and tricks for making the process a little bit easier and more effective. We'll go through timelines of when you should start getting ready for auditions and your applications. And then we have some really good tips as you go through your college search process, what will help you through the process and how to be really well prepared for an audition. Then we'll leave some time at the end for you to ask some questions through that Q&A chat button. And we'll try and address any questions that come up throughout the presentation as well.
We just wanted to talk about, in general, when you're applying to school and you're interested in music. If you are interested in music, there are typically two parts that you're going to have to complete. You will most usually have to submit an application to the school itself. Most often that is through the Common App. Sometimes schools have their own application, such as The UW-Madison, Lawrence both have their own application in addition to a common application. So you can choose whichever one works best for you. When you're thinking about that application, that's where your personal essay is going to be, your high school transcript will be requested. Think about what you're putting into that application. You definitely want to include everything that you've been busy doing while in high school. Sometimes this is the only tool that admissions officers have when making a decision about your acceptance to their college. So make it a robust application so that we know who you are. We will also typically require an academic recommendation. So for this Common App portion, you're going to want to include a recommendation from a teacher or a high school counselor who knows you well, but can speak more to those kind of core classes of your experience. So math, science, English, those types of classes. Then test scores are going to be optional at some places. Some colleges do still require them. So you're going to want to make sure that you are checking the boxes of everything that's required for the schools that you are looking for. When you add music into the situation, the world just gets a little bit more complicated. While most schools take the common application and require pretty much the same things, every school has a completely separate music process. Some schools will use the Common App as the basis of their music application. Other schools will use a completely separate music application. For Lawrence, you add in the music items into your Common Application. For the University of Wisconsin-Madison and for St. Olaf, we actually have completely separate music applications. Along with this, there will often be separate deadlines as well. Sometimes you have to submit your Common App before you can submit your music app. Sometimes they have to be submitted at the same time. You just really need to double check these details on the school's website and reach out to your admissions counselors or people like the three of us to help you through this process. Typically, a music application will require some supplemental information from you. Losing my charger. It will require a recommendation from someone who knows you musically. So think private lesson teachers, band directors, choir teachers, someone like that. We'll also ask for a music resume. And this is something that no matter what year you are in high school, you can get started. We want to know what you've done, what summer camps you've done, what ensembles you're a part of, if you've done any all-state or all-region solo and ensemble contests. This is a good place to keep track of those items. And then a large part of a music application is going to be the audition itself. And that will take place in many different forms and in many different ways that we are going to address in just a couple of slides.
Okay, so to prepare for an audition, first things first, students should look at the audition requirements for each school because each school will have slightly different requirements. So this is really important. So again, students should look at the audition requirements for each school for your instrument or voice. And one thing I'd add to that is that at most universities, in addition to the main application page for music, usually the music department's website will have a specific page within their website for the brass area, string area, woodwind area, keyboard area, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd recommend taking a look at those pages as well, because that's a good way to get some additional tips that's often on those pages. Second, students should work with their music teacher, be that their private teacher or high school ensemble teacher, to choose music that fits these requirements. So you want to choose appropriate repertoire. And generally the best time to do that is to start preparing this music in the summer between junior and senior year. One additional tip that I'd add on there, as you know, you can look at your desired college's application website to see the types of musical repertoire that they're looking for. But in addition to that, you can also feel free to send an email to your potential future teacher asking about repertoire. If there's a specific repertoire that they would like to hear, or if you're considering certain repertoire, if you're deciding between pieces, it's a good idea to speak with a future teacher about that. So for example, as a basis, if I was in your situation, I would look at UW-Madison's website. I'd see the base teacher is Peter Dominguez, and I would send him an email to ask him a bit more about repertoire and get his opinion of what I should play. So that brings us to some additional points of interest. Next step, apply to the school. Each school's application process may be a little different. There is no uniform application for music schools, so contact your admissions counselor at each school for help if needed. So for example, when applying to UW-Madison, you can feel free to give me a call or to email me. My name and email address is on the application page and also be in the final slide. Same thing at St. Olaf with Molly or Kate at Lawrence. We're all really happy to help you. And then you need to complete an audition. Some schools have a pre-screening process. If the student passes the pre-screening round, the faculty or admissions committee will invite them to audition again in person. So that varies per school. Some schools have pre-screening, some don't. Now, ordinarily, in most years, when we're not in a pandemic, procedures are pretty straightforward, cut and dry, very uniform. But this year, it's probably gonna be a little bit more complicated. You may find that different instrument/voice areas at your desired school have different requirements. So at UW-Madison, we're still finalizing our audition requirements for this coming school year. But you may find, for example, if you're a percussionist, that you're requested to submit a recorded audition, whereas if you were, say, a tuba, trombone, or other brass player, they'd want you to complete an audition live via Zoom. So that all varies per school, and it may also vary per instrument area. So again, pay close attention to the application page for your desired school. And finally, other schools do not have a pre-screening process. Simply apply to the school and sign up for an audition. So again, it's different between schools. Some have pre-screening, some don't. And this year you may find that individual instrument areas within each school has different requirements. So to keep a close eye on that application page.
If this was a normal year, most schools would be asking for on-campus, in-person auditions. We're gonna go over just a smidge what those look like because maybe you're a junior and maybe next year we will have these and maybe you live in an area where some schools are still having these, so it's good tips to know. A lot of these things are things that you'll also wanna carry forward in this new realm because if it's a Zoom live audition, that's essentially the same in-person audition. When you are on campus for an audition, you will be typically performing for music faculty in that area. And often that will be a panel of music faculty. So maybe all of the woodwind instructors, or maybe it'll be the string instructors plus the orchestra conductor. There also might be a video recorder in there, or faculty or admissions staff like those of us here in the panel, just to help make sure that we capture the information that we need from that audition. Know that these auditions likely take 10 to 15 minutes, so it is not a long process at all. And know that even though you might have prepared a full violin concerto, it is unlikely that you will be playing that full violin concerto. So don't get thrown off if you start your concerto and then the faculty raise their hand and say, "Thank you, can we move on to the next piece?" That's not because they don't want to hear you. There's just a lot of people to hear and only short amount of times to do so. In that in-person audition as well, you might be prepared to answer a question or two, such as, why do you want to attend St. Olaf or Lawrence or UW-Madison? Or why did you pick the flute to play in the begin with? The faculty really use these auditions to get to know you a little better. So be prepared to play and play your best, but also be prepared and don't be shy if the faculty cut you off and ask you a few questions as well.
So another audition option at some schools are regional auditions, where an admissions counselor or a faculty member will come to you in your major city. Lawrence does host these in non-pandemic years, so we will not be having regional auditions this year. But I will go and meet you at a place in a large city where you're still auditioning for a live person, but I will be recording your audition to send back to the faculty. This is a really good option for students who can't make it to campus to audition in person. Whether that is maybe you live on the other side of the country and it's cost prohibitive to fly to campus, or maybe you're booked solid with other auditions and school things, and a regional audition fits better in your schedule. So it's sort of an in-between a live audition and a recorded audition. At these regional auditions, you'll still have an opportunity to speak with a person, a live person. So if I'm there recording you, we'll definitely have an opportunity to chat a little bit at the end. If you have any questions about your application or financial aid or the admissions process, we can talk together and still have that sort of connection. But the video recording that I make of your audition will be sent back to the faculty for review. And in that way, it'll be counted as your audition in your application.
Okay, and then to speak a little bit about video auditions, as some of you may be submitting video auditions. A student submits a self-recorded video audition in lieu of an in-person audition, and you may wind up doing this anyways for pre-screening. This is a good option for those who cannot travel to campus or a regional site. And one thing that's really important to keep in mind is that videos should not be spliced together. So that is to say, in your video audition, you would be asked to play the same audition repertoire as any other student who attended a live audition. And when you do that, there should not be any cuts in the video. I think sometimes people think that if they cut out any of like the dead time between setting up between songs or anything like that, that looks more professional or anything of that nature. However, music faculty don't want to see that. They want to see just one long take. So that's very important to them. With your video audition, you do have the benefits of testing the image and sound beforehand to make sure you're getting a good sound and then you're very clear in the camera. So you have that as well. And another thing I would say is whenever possible, try not to be too far away from the camera because it can be very beneficial for faculty to see you a little bit up close to get a closer look at your fingering, embouchure, things of that nature while you're playing. So that's not to say an extreme close-up, right, of view of your instrument, but just not too far away. You don't necessarily have to be head to foot within the frame because that will really help. What's most important in the video audition is the sound quality, as you can imagine, because you're applying for a music department, but a clear image also helps as well.
So this one's me, right? So as you're getting ready for applying to music schools and getting ready for your audition, we've come up with a few helpful hints that can help make this process go a little bit better for you. So one thing that you should never be afraid to do is email the music faculty, your future music teacher at that school. It's a really good idea to get to know them a little bit, as you will be working with them the most out of any other teacher at school. So you kind of want to make sure you're going to get along with that teacher, and it's a good click. You click well together. They are also going to be the ones that advocate for you in the admissions process. So in the admissions counselors, the same thing. Start building relationships with those professors and with your admissions counselors, as we want you at the school, and we're going to be the ones to advocate for you. When you're getting ready for your audition, if possible, try to perform for live audiences often to get used to the feeling, to get rid of stage fright. Practice having someone cut you off in the middle of a phrase so that doesn't throw you off. It'll just help you with your performance anxiety and really getting into that mindset of performing for a live person. Dress for success. In auditions, we're not expecting you to wear full tuxedos or ball gowns, but dress like you're going somewhere professional. Business fancy, so no jeans, no t-shirts, no sweatshirts or tennis shoes, nice pants and a button-down shirt or a nice dress, something that looks professional and nice. You want to leave a good impression for the faculty. Oh, sorry, Molly, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to say that also applies to your video recordings. So think about what's in the frame behind you and what you're wearing in the video, because that's the impression that the faculty are going to get from you. So when you're thinking about a room or a space, your bathroom's probably not your best pick, nor is a pile of dirty laundry on a bed behind you. So make sure it's clean and tidy, and that you yourself are clean and tidy, even in those pre-screened videos or virtual auditions.
Yes, I agree, 100%. Kind of just be conscious of your surrounding area, and just present a professional front in all ways. So in high school, if you're getting ready for your senior year, or even if you're going to be a junior this year, if you have access to AP music theory or any sort of music theory class or piano classes, we highly recommend that you get into those classes. It'll help you tremendously as you're getting ready for college. Part of being a music major is music theory classes and keyboarding classes, at least basic keyboarding skills for those who piano is not their primary instrument, but it's really, really going to help you kind of transition into the coursework of a college music major. If you're interested in other academic subjects as well, say you would like to do science in addition to music, look for schools that offer flexible programs or double majors or double degree programs. So both Lawrence and St. Olaf offer double degrees. And Jared, does UW-Madison offer double degrees or double majors as well?
Yes, UW-Madison does offer double majors. We have, to simplify, in most, there are 4 main avenues of study: music performance, music education, jazz studies, and music composition. So for performance, jazz studies, and composition, there's a big Bachelor of Music option and then a smaller Bachelor of Arts option. And then in music education, there's just the bigger Bachelor of Music option. The Bachelor of Arts, so the smaller option in music, that's a performance major. That can theoretically be combined with any other subject on campus. With the BM programs, that gets a little bit more complicated what you're going to combine with, but the BA in music can be theoretically combined with any other subject on campus at UW-Madison.
So a lot of schools will offer double majors. Some will offer double degrees. It's a good idea to get a sense of how feasible it is to do that at that school. We always recommend talking to current students who are going through that program to get the inside information about whether it really is possible to do a double major. But do your research. If you're really, really interested in studying science or math or English in addition to studying music, there are schools out there that will allow you that flexibility to do both at the same time. Continued. Oh, this is yours. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So a bit more helpful hints. Stay organized with a spreadsheet of audition requirements, audition dates, and such for each school, as there will be many, as well as contact information for faculty and admission counselors and application due dates. This is a really handy tip because it's also good just for your own personal state of mind. You can take a look, like, okay, say I've applied the application, I've submitted my audition, I've sent the letters of recommendation, music resume, et cetera, I'm all set. As we said before, each different music school will have slightly different requirements for the application documents. So if you can stay organized with a spreadsheet of audition requirements, that is just a great thing that you can do. Another thing is to ask for a sample lesson with an applied studio professor. As we noted, it's a good idea to see what the working relationship will be like with that teacher. And if you click with them, Some important note, some schools will offer sample lessons for no charge, but it's a good idea to ask if there is a charge up front. So you could just ask the faculty member about that when you contact them. And finally, one additional thing that we would like to note is that so we're in a very difficult position this year, getting through this pandemic, but 2020 isn't all bad. Our new virtual environment is presenting some opportunities to engage with schools and music teachers in new and more accessible ways. And to elaborate on that, one thing that is actually beneficial with the current situation is that faculty members are going to be spending more time behind a computer, and thus more time very close to their email accounts. So it's easier than ever to get a hold of a faculty member because they're just going to be that much more accessible because they're going to be online so much. Another nice thing about that is that it'll be easier to schedule a sample lesson, say via Zoom. Now, one downside of the current situation is that unfortunately we can't offer live tours or live sample lessons with faculty members right now. And I do see that that is a bit of a disadvantage, but an upside is that it's easier to schedule a sample lesson via Zoom because you're not factoring in travel times, things of that nature. This is also another way you could potentially branch out your college search a bit more because you'll be visiting with them virtually and visiting with faculty virtually. So that can be a really, really good thing they can use to your advantage. So if absolutely nothing else, it's easier than ever to get a sample lesson done online via Zoom. And as we said before, it's very important. It really, really helps if you can meet with the person that you're likely going to study with for 4 years. That is probably one of the best things you can do to see for yourself if the school that you're considering is indeed right for you. So that's an advantage that we have of the current situation of our new virtual environment. So yes, there are some downsides, but there's some upsides as well. So just want to let you know so you can take advantage of that.
Before we get into what's it like to be a music major, I do want to encourage you, if you have questions so far, to use that question and answer box. I thank you for those of you who've submitted questions already. I know we're covering a lot of information pretty quick, but know that we're going to answer some questions at the end, and we are always here for questions later as well as you kind of get into the process. So you've gone through the application process, you've gone through the audition process, you've been accepted, you've made your college choice. Now what? You're a music major. And that is very different than maybe what you're expecting. There aren't very many high schools that you can kind of like major in music at. And in college, you should know that being a music major is much more than singing in a choir all day or just playing your instrument all day. There are some pretty high standards for music majors in college. The pre-med kids don't like when I say this, but sometimes the music major is actually one of the most challenging majors on campus because it is so very personal. You are putting your own art, your own voice into the world, plus learning history and math and science, and it's physical. So it really combines all of the areas within that seemingly simple music major. Within a music major, you will be taking classes outside of your private lessons and ensembles. There is a lot of music theory. There's a lot of music history and musicology that you'll be taking. Pretty much every music major, you're gonna have some basic keyboard skills that are going to be required. So if you have the opportunity to take piano lessons before you get there, that's only gonna help you. Most schools, you will also be required to have some general education requirements outside of the music department as well. Liberal arts colleges like St. Olaf and Lawrence do have a pretty strong requirement for that, with about a third of your classes outside of music, but large research universities like the University of Madison also will send you out of that music department and music school to take other classes as well. You should think of this as an opportunity because non-music classes help you connect with your future audiences, actually. And everything that you learn outside of music, you're going to bring back into your music as you're playing as well. So Don't be a music major if you think it's just a good way to get out of a math class in college, because it's not going to happen. If you aren't used to practicing already, you should be, because music majors are required to practice your instrument several hours a day. And that is because that's why you're there. You want to get better, and so you should be practicing. If you are interested in music education, know that education is a big part of it, and you will learn how to be an educator. So you will spend time observing elementary, middle school, high schools. You will spend time in your student teaching as well as observing, because you have to learn how to teach as well as how to teach music. And one thing that is going to keep you on track no matter what you major in, but especially for music majors, is having good time management. You are going to be balancing classes, rehearsals, practice times, eating, studying. All of those are really important. And you're going to have good time management to figure that out. But know that a music major really prepares you well for the future as well, because you are leaving with time management. You are leaving with self-discipline of learning and how to do personal growth in that practice room. And every time you step into an ensemble, you are learning collaboration skills. All of these skills are completely transferable to other professions and really what companies of the future are looking for. So know that as a music major, you are very hireable. The job market is strong, and you come in as a music major and you will leave well-rounded, not only in music, but in life skills that are going to help you be successful afterwards as well.
Preach. Thank you, Molly. So at this point, we wanted to pause, and if you have questions about anything that we've talked about already, or other things that we haven't covered, or other audition tips or tricks or whatever is on your mind, please use that Q&A box, and we will address your questions at this time. I think we have about 12 minutes to do some Q&A.
So I have a question, Kate or Jared. I am awesome at 12 different instruments, and everyone says I should be a music major. Do you have any tips for me?
Yeah. Well, that's really cool that you play so many instruments. But for your audition, pick one. Pick one, maybe two. Get really, really, really good at those instruments, because that audition on that instrument is what's going to get you into college. It's going to look much better if you can really put the focus and time in on those instruments, those one or two instruments that you've chosen. You can still keep up your other 10 instruments if you'd like to, but in college, you're not going to have time to focus on 12 instruments. You will only really be focusing on one or two primary instruments. And we also want you to be really good at 2 instruments instead of kind of okay at 12 instruments. So do yourself a favor and pick 1 or 2 of those instruments that you really, really love. Dive into study and practice those very intensely so you're really well prepared for a college audition.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, just speaking on behalf of my school, UW-Madison, students can choose to audition on more than one instrument if they would like. However, it's not common for students to enter more than one instrument studio. At college level, you're really encouraged to focus on one primary instrument. We do occasionally have students enter more than one instrument studio. If that is something that you desire, you would need to get approval from both instructors to do that. And like I said, that's not very common just because people, you really expect you to focus on one instrument. One exception to that is for some music education students whose primary instrument is piano or guitar. They are actually required to complete a certain amount of semesters of study on a secondary instrument or classical voice to get their teaching certification in the state of Wisconsin. So that's a state of Wisconsin requirement. So for example, if I am a guitarist and I want to be a music education student, I would still audition on guitar, as that's my primary instrument. However, I would need to complete an audition on either a secondary band or orchestral instrument or classical voice, and I'd have to pass that audition as well. So if it was a secondary band or orchestral instrument, I would spend 4 semesters studying that instrument. If it was classical voice, I'd spend 6 semesters studying classical voice. So it does get a little different for music education students, but long story short, most students are encouraged to focus on one instrument in college. And I see we have more questions in the Q&A bubble.
So here's a question. It varies from school to school, but are recorded auditions typically one long file, or is it separate video files for each individual piece or scale that you're submitting?
It's generally preferred that it's one long file. Faculty don't want to see sort of splices between it, just one long file of you performing one piece and moving on to the next, even if there's a brief pause as you ready yourself for that.
Because it depends on, for St. Olaf, we actually prefer individual files for our upload system. So this is a good point where you need to double check your school. Yeah, it's really awesome if you can do one long take of everything, because then the faculty get that real experience. But like at St. Olaf, our platform can't handle one long video, so we ask you to do individual pieces. So lesson learned between Jared and I, that you have to watch those requirements because it really varies.
Ask if you're not sure. If you're not sure, reach out to your admissions counselor or that faculty member and just be totally sure what they'd like.
If there are multiple faculty on an instrument, so most colleges probably have more than one voice professor, for example, is it ethical or acceptable to take sample lessons with more than one to find the best fit?
I think it'll depend on the school. It really will. Lawrence has a place, a process set up where we'll ask you a few questions before you get a sample lesson, a little bit about what you're looking for in your future teacher, if there's any sorts of personalities you get along with a little bit better. And then we have somebody who will match you up with our professor that fits that, since we do have 6 professors that you might be studying with. But definitely take a look at each faculty member's bio. Feel free to send them an email or at least have a phone conversation with each one of them if you'd like. You may not be able to get the sample lesson with every single professor, but it's totally okay to talk to them and say hello and get to know them a little bit. So when it does come time for assigning students to a faculty studio, you can maybe make a request, or that faculty member might request you if they've gotten to know you really well.
So this person writes original songs and is really interested in continuing that in college. What's the best way to showcase that? Would it be part of a composition portfolio or more something put on an actual resume?
Well, I'd say first, try to decide if you want to apply as a music performance student or as a music composition student. So at UW-Madison, we offer music composition. Music composition is a track of our performance degree and our performance major. So you have the option between the Bachelor of Music or the Bachelor of Arts style, either the major or the degree for music composition. Sometimes music composition students will also audition for and enroll in an instrument studio, but that actually isn't that common. It's more common for music composition students just to enroll as composition students because you're going to take music composition lessons in place of your standard instrumental or voice lessons. And one thing that's important to know about that is that music composition application / audition process, at least at UW-Madison, is much different than it is for music performance / music education. So at music for prospective music performance and music education students, they need to apply to the university, apply to the School of Music, and then submit an audition. And then they generally get a yes or no answer from the audition as to whether or not they're accepted to the instrument studio. And that's generally also contingent on admission to the university. And that's how that goes. For composition, it's a little different. You still have to apply to the university first and then apply to the School of Music. But instead of completing a live audition on your primary instrument, you would submit a composition portfolio. And composition portfolio requirements, I think I can safely say, are going to vary strongly between individual composition programs. At UW-Madison, we require 3 scores of your original compositions, corresponding recordings of those scores, a composition list. That's a list of everything that you've composed in your life as a musician, including titles, duration, genres, media, etc. And the composition area at my school also asks to read a research paper that you've previously written that can be in any subject. You put that all together in a portfolio, and in most years you would mail it to me. This year you're probably going to send it to me electronically. So yeah, it's pretty different. And that information is listed in very thorough detail on our application page and on the composition area page. Again, if you recall a little earlier, we said when you're interested in a School of Music, in addition to looking at their application page, you want to take a look at the individual instrument area page. This is a good example of that, because if you're interested in composition, you can take a look at the application page, and then you'll take a look at the composition area page and get a lot of details about what it is you're going to be studying and how you audition for that.
I think it's also important to note the programs that you're applying for. Is it a composition program or is it a singer-songwriter program? Because they will be 2 very, very different things.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, a composition major, composition program is going to be looking for more classical pieces that you've composed, maybe for an orchestra or for a chamber ensemble, something a little bit more traditional. But some programs may offer a singer-songwriter program where you're writing your own songs, singing them with guitar or maybe with your band. That's a very, very different program. So that's something that you're going to want to look into. Some schools that just have composition majors where you need to audition and have a portfolio and score, something a little bit more traditional, you may be able to keep up with your singer-songwriter stuff as an extracurricular on the side, form your own band just for fun, that sort of thing. But there are programs out there that are specifically designed for contemporary pop music or commercial music, something more designed for singer-songwriters. So that's a really important distinction to make as you're looking at programs and what you'd like to do.
Yeah. So related to that and the difference between composition and singer-songwriter, what is the difference between music composition and music production?
It's a good question. So with music composition, you're really focusing on creating music. So creating scores, so creating music that people can play. Kind of like creating scores for movies, things like that. Okay, so that's what composition refers to. Composition refers to music creation. Music production refers to producing that music. So if music production program, you would focus on things like learning programs like Pro Tools, GarageBand, recording techniques, production techniques, mastering techniques, things like that. So music composition refers to the creation of music. Music production refers to the producing, the production end of music, recording, mastering, things of that nature.
And then one final question, it's kind of a complicated question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you still major in music if you don't play an instrument? And I'll take that one, and that really depends on the school. You've heard us mention Bachelor of Arts or a BA and a Bachelor of Music, Batch Muse degree, or some schools use like BM as the initials. Sometimes at some schools, you can do a Bachelor of Arts degree without a primary instrument, because that Bachelor of Arts degree is more based on music history or music theory, and you don't have to audition into the program. That being said, we're going to emphasize one more time, double check schools' websites and ask, because like at St. Olaf, our Bachelor of Arts is an auditioned degree, and you still have to have a primary instrument. So on behalf of Kate and Jared, definitely reach out, but definitely check our websites, because while there are some tips that carry through everywhere, know that each school has just its own personalities and its own requirements as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. That is the end of our time. I do want to extend my thanks to the panel here. They were fantastic. And I do want to just remind you all that that after this, you're going to receive a quick survey for 4 questions. Please fill that on out for us. And then again, the recording of this will be available on the WACAC website, and you can sign up for more sessions there as well. So thanks so much.
Bye-bye.